welcome back to another stream. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm joined by my really good friend, Dan McCarthy. You probably know him from Twitter. He does a lot of transfer news and just great Chelsea opinions as well. And we're basically going to talk through what the heck happened in that Leicester game yesterday, because I'm still not feeling great from it, and go over everything, all of your questions about Frank Lampard. Don't worry, we're going to cover absolutely everything. But before we get started, Dan, how are you doing?
I'm alive. I mean, coronavirus and Chelsea struggling. I'm still alive, so I'm good. I'm really excited to be chatting with you. Obviously, we talk a lot off air. I'm really excited to get on your channel and help you guys out and really just talk Chelsea. And I know you're more than ready for me in your prep, so let's get it.
Awesome. So first, I want to just take it back to before the Leicester game. What were your expectations going to that game? What did you think that we should have gotten out of it?
Before I quickly start, I just want to say I was like backstage or however this thing works, and the video animation is really cool, like the waiting room. So guys, if you ever get on here eventually, if you're very lucky enough to be hosted by Ali, the waiting room's pretty cool. It's better than like an office, like a dentistry or something. So it was really fun. I enjoyed myself. I was happy in there. But
music,
the music was great. The animation was cool. I was kind of jamming on Twitter before. So my expectations for Leicester. I obviously knew the team would be heavily rotated because of what we saw at Fulham, and a lot of key members in the squad were obviously rested for that or dropped, whatever way you look at it. So I knew it was going to be a tough game. I was optimistic. I'm always optimistic. I think people know that about me now. I try to be very positive and optimistic, stupidly or naively.
I think that's why we get along so well, because we both try to be very optimistic.
Exactly. So so I was optimistic. I would have taken a draw, and I actually wanted to win, to be honest. When the team first came out, like I said earlier, with the Rens, everyone seemed to be pretty happy with it, right? But I was happy with the lineup on paper, and I'm a big believer in this, right? Football's not played on paper, but I also did worry about how it would work, to be honest, especially the midfield three. And I said to a couple of people privately before the game, this is going to be all about the midfield. It's going to be a midfield battle, and whoever wins that wins this game. And we saw that midfield battle. So that was my kind of falling thoughts before Leicester. Ellie, not sure if you're the same or.
Yeah, so I was looking back at our previous fixtures against Leicester, and they were all really draws, and I think 1 win in 5 or something. So I really wasn't expecting a win. Given our current form, I was like, that would have been absolutely amazing. But realistically, I thought that we would draw the game. And when that team sheet came out, I was thinking, okay, surely it must be a 4-2-3-1 with Kovacic and Mount playing a little bit deeper, but it really was Kovacic playing more as a lone DM. And I was really curious why Frank made that selection, because you have Billy Gilmore, who, given is young, but he's shown that he can show up in big games. And I think the younger players really would play for you. You know what I mean? We've seen it at Arsenal that the younger players have like this extra fight and tenacity to prove themselves and really play for the badge. And I was surprised that he put Kovacic in that lone DM spot, given that he really hasn't played that much. And then against Leicester, who's such a strong opponent, we've seen that they did go first in the Premier League yesterday because of this game. And so I was really just I was happy, but I knew that midfield battle was not going to be so easy. And I don't know, I got very worried after seeing that, especially because in the past couple of games, teams have just sliced through our midfield like butter. And I was like, oh, not again. But of course, that's what happened,
Yeah, no, definitely. The midfield is an experiment. It just didn't work. I don't think Lampard should be experimenting too much at this point. I'm sure we'll get to that later. But we lost the midfield battle, and end of the day, the result happened. It was the manner of the result, which wasn't great either. So a bit of negativity, and I'm sure a lot to dissect and a lot to discuss for sure.
Yeah. So what did you think was the strategy or game plan going into this game? Because I felt that a lot of people were asking, well, what happened? What was the game plan? I didn't see anything. The players just looked very rejected, and anybody besides Mason Mount and Thiago Silva and maybe Pulisic, and you could give Mendy a shot as well, I didn't think anybody really played well at all.
Yeah, I think the game plan was perhaps it was more of an attacking team than maybe some people would have guessed, right? I mean, just kind of symbolising the midfield three and then the forward three. It was a very dynamic / forward thinking team, which is brave, but fair play to him, right? And it just didn't work, to be honest. You know, Leicester did very well in the respect of sitting back, which they do, and then just counter attacking at their incredible speed. And I think some of the selections were made to maybe counteract that. Hence, Reece James coming back in because he has pace. Kovacic has got a bit more pace than Jorginho in the holding mid, so that's why he played. Obviously, Mason dropping a little bit deeper to help out Kovacic. But it just didn't work. Let's just be frank, no pun intended. It just didn't. I've used that one a couple of times, so it's recycled. But
it's not novel. It's not novel.
It just didn't work, and I think the game plan was to go at Leicester a little bit and kind of pin them back, and kind of Lampard would have wanted the wingers to drive and go at them, but I think confidence is a massive issue right now. Like, the players are not making the same decisions and the same, plays, for lack of a better term, very American, I guess. I live in America, you're American, I'm just trying to relate. I think it was just, it was a mess. It was just a bit of a mess. And the game plan did not work.
It didn't. And going back to what you said on confidence, I think it's so massive because I've said it time and time again, but we see players like Pulisic, who we know post-restart was just absolutely phenomenal. Everything was coming off for him, and he was playing so confidently. And then in the past couple of games, he's looked unsure of himself. And this isn't just for him, it's for everybody. But I draw that parallel because I saw, especially with him, given how good he was, and that he's passing the ball. And we see something that frustrates me a lot is that we're seeing players make the safe pass. It feels like nobody wants to pass long. Nobody wants to go into the midfield, go forward, take a shot, take a long shot, anything. It's just something that we're totally not seeing right now. And we're just passing the ball, tiki-taking it, as I liked. I don't know if that's a thing, but so I wanted to get to this question quickly. So in terms of the starting 11 and the game plan, I also thought it was very, very weird that you have Rudiger, who's basically fifth string center back, and then he was about to leave the club, and that broke down. And now all of a sudden he's starting 2 games in a row over Kurt Zouma, who I really didn't feel did that much to be dropped. What do you think about that?
So I'll answer the question maybe first, and then I'll go to the centre back, which is a good question from you, Ellie. On paper, Jack Jones, great name by the way, said it looks okay on paper. I was talking more about the general fan base seemed to really like the lineup, and like Twitter, right, seemed to really like it. It looked good on paper. I maybe have more of a in-depth analysis of the game, maybe because I work in it. I was worried about the team a little bit when I saw it on paper. And he makes a good point about Kovacic playing CDM. It just doesn't work. And I wasn't really a fan of that. So just to clarify that, that's not me separating myself or thinking I'm better than anybody. That's not how I roll. But yeah, no, I agree with his point. Ellie, to answer your question about the centre-backs, good point by this man or woman right here. It's definitely politics to it. I don't want to go too far into that because the last time I tweeted that word on Twitter, it went mental. But
it's just certain words you have to avoid on Twitter. With Rudiger, it's he came in against Fulham as a rotational basis, which I understood, and this point does stand that he has to play to put him out there as such. What's that? Interesting, Dan. You're giving us the inside scoop over here.
A little bit. Not too much, though, because I'll get in trouble. But, so Rudiger was a rotational thing, and, it understands because, transfer market value, Rudiger clearly wants to play. Rudiger is a very peripheral figure in the dressing room. I think people underestimate that. He's a big part of that dressing room, believe it or not, playing time aside. So, playing time, there you go, another American one. That was the thing. And then he obviously played okay. I thought he played well against Fulham, personally.
Against Fulham. Okay.
He played okay. And Lampard maybe looked at that and gone, play him on merit, play him on form. Zouma, something's gone on with Zouma. I've just been told it's a rotational / form thing, nothing like too worrying. And he's just stuck with him. Maybe because also another thing is his pace, right? Rudiger has pace. He's one of the fastest players in the team, in fact. And obviously Leicester front three is rapid. So maybe that's another thinking of it. And I actually tweeted a couple of people I know, like Nick and a couple of other guys before the game, kind of saying, this is why Lampard's done it. I'm not giving my personal opinion. I just think this is why Lampard's done it. And they were battering Rudiger to me, to be honest. And I was kind of like, well, come on. Like, he played okay against Fulham. And, like, if a player does well, keep him in. That's fair enough. That's football, right? And then obviously he had an absolute nightmare and I got battered. And I actually tweeted them and said, fair play, hold my hands. I got that one wrong, which I'm okay to get. I'm old enough and ugly enough to do that. So
I thought it was an absolute mare, honestly. I haven't been his biggest fan. Even when he was starting last season, I was kind of like, why is he starting? I feel like we have stronger players. But for me, it was just like really shocking. In such a big game, I get that you have to put Rudiger's value up. He had an okay game against Fulham, but I feel bad for Kurt Zouma. I don't feel like he really deserved to get dropped. And then Rudiger had an absolute nightmare of a game. The entire team, but...
Yeah, fair point, 100%. And you're right. And in hindsight, Zuma should have played, right? And I'm learning more about StreamYard. I've got the comments up on the right, which I don't usually have. Yeah. So I'm looking at the comments, and I saw earlier, just so I'll try to do my best here to help. I'm trying to make it as interactive for you, of course. I saw someone say, Arthik, I think it was, like Dan the Busy Man. Yeah, it is. Welcome to the day of my life. And Raj Josie said, please ask Danny if he remembers Stone Side Duck from Twitter. Yes, I remember Stone Side Duck. He pops up in my mentions a lot. So shout out to you, my man.
Love it.
I'm trying to give back to the fans. Some streams and other stuff I'll take a little bit more seriously and I'll be a little bit modest. But obviously,
it's super casual here, you guys. Like, feel free to send in as many questions, comments as you want, and we're gonna try to get to all of them. So yeah. I honestly love it.
Yes, this is how me and Eddie roll often on stream. So that's how we'll go with it. So it was wrong. And I think Kurt Zouma needs to get back in the team immediately. I actually think he's becoming a bit of a leader. He's Chelsea's best centre-back in the respect of long-term. The club loves him, by the way. They're going to give him a new contract, I'm sure. He's a mainstay in the club as long as he plays. So, yeah, get him back in the team immediately.
Who is that? Sorry, I missed that.
Kurt Zouma.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I was really impressed with him, and I think the team in general hasn't been playing well, but I think that Thiago Silva has had such a great influence on him and really shored him up. He's looked like he's improved a lot over the past year. But I don't want to keep seeing this chopping and changing of center back pairings, and I'm tired of that. So we have a question, and maybe you would know the answer to this. Is there a way to call back Ampadu from Sheffield and have him play with Chelsea? So one, is it possible? But two, do you think that it's going to happen?
Is it possible? Yes. Like, we could technically call him back, I believe. Will we? No. He'll be at Sheffield United for the rest of the year, guaranteed. Can he play in the holding mid role? This is the thing with Ampadu, right? This is probably why why his development has stalled a little bit. It's because we don't know if he's a centre back or a centre mid. There he is. There you go, buddy. So I personally believe he's a centre-back. That's my personal opinion, not what I've heard, been told, connections, whatever. That's my personal opinion. So I would not put him in a pivot next to Conte for Chelsea, personally. Not saying you're wrong, not saying it can't happen, just my personal opinion. So I would diminish that. I just want to see more of Billy Gilmour, personally.
Yeah.
I will clarify, I'm not one of these people on Twitter who gets behind one player and then starts an agenda and then they're God's gift and they're the best thing since sliced bread. That's just not who I am. Like, it's happened with Callum Hudson-Odoi, right? There's a very big following, which is fine. I like Callum. I don't love him as much as other people do, but I do like the player. I want him to be at Chelsea for a long time. I want him to play. But I'm also not on that train. And I think there's now going to be a train of Billy Gilmour, that he's the saviour, and he's not. Like, he's a good player, lots of potential, deserves to play more. He's not going to change Chelsea's title chase. Like, it's not going to happen. He's a good player.
I just feel like if the team is playing so poorly and you have a player who has so much potential, he showed in the past that he can play well, why would you not just give it a shot? You know what I mean? Like, I think that he at least deserves that. I was surprised that he didn't even get into the game against Fulham, and we're thinking, okay, well, there's going to be some rotation, and then not against Leicester either. I feel like it's pretty harsh, especially because I don't think that Kovacic has been playing well at all. I think he's been having mares. I don't think that Jorginho has been playing well at all either. So
agree with you.
Start.
I agree with you. Girl knows ball, as they say on the platform. But yeah, so yeah, it's hard. You know, the double pivot thing, the midfield is hard. I just saw that question and Ellie took it away. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Which one?
Ellie's quick, guys. You've got to be quick. She's efficient. She moves on pretty quick. I saw something about, I think it was Jack Jones again, right? I'll just try and find it so I can answer it. Oh, I see it now. People love to throw hate towards Rice, but he's exactly the type of player Chelsea. There you go, Ellie. He needs to take control. Ellie will know why I'm smiling. Other people may. Some people may know. Some people may not. It's the player that's obviously mentioned. I'm not going to say too much on this because I feel like I've spent so much time talking about this and people already know my opinion on this and others know more about it than some. But yeah, Chelsea signed Declan Rice. Let's just get it done. Let's be done with it. I think it's unbiased, of course. So unbiased. I think we need him. And I think he's going to be a huge answer. Is he the whole answer? No, but he would be a answer. And I think we need him.
Something I really like about Declan Rice is that he's already a captain and leader at West Ham at such a young age, and he's proven to be one of, if not their most important players. And something that Chelsea are lacking right now, I feel, is just people on the pitch who are going to yell, who are going to be vocal, speak their minds, and get players into positions, get the team going again. Because without fans, I think that we're seeing that the team's having a hard time as well. Maybe if there were fans in the stadium, they would feel a little bit more, I don't know, like...
Yeah, no.
Likely, playing a little bit better and like, oh shoot, I'm performing in front of people. Like, I need to step it up. So I think that Declan would be an amazing asset in that point.
Absolutely, it's the best. It's the worst kept secret, right? And hopefully, eventually, it happens. But it's not happening. By the way, breaking news: if it wasn't already, it's not happening in January. That's for sure, 100%. And the summer is going to completely depend on so many things that people will probably know. And just quickly, Arthik says in the chat, Torres should come out of retirement and play for Chelsea. Yes, he should. Yes, he should.
Like a beast. What the heck?
Yeah, he's a beast.
Like, oh my God.
I can't believe Torres got better than he already was. People will now be fully aware of my love affair for Fernando Torres. He's my favourite player of all time. Definitely got a man crush on him, I'm sure, as well. Yeah, get Torres back. Get El Nino back. He'll bang in goals for fun. And look at him now. He's like bigger than Drogba, so he's even better than he was anyway.
He's like the size of my thigh, maybe 2 thighs, honestly. Yeah. I was thinking like Diego Costa. He's leaving Atletico on a free. I would personally love to see him back. I think he's such a. Even if he's third choice, I just love the guy so much.
Diego Costa and Fernando Torres up front. Let's play 2 up front. And put
them. Let's go for it. Jack Jones again. Speaking about other players to hold accountable, Reece James, I thought that his positioning was terrible yesterday. I love Reece James as a player, but it's something that I've been noticing from game to game that sometimes his positional awareness isn't there, and defensively he can be a little bit suspect. How did you feel with his performance yesterday?
Agree, yeah, completely agree with you again, Ali. It's getting boring now. He was poor. He's not 100% fit. I think Lampard threw him in there because if you're one of your best players, 70%, 80% fit, you throw him in there anyway. Just kind of hope that they'll figure it out, but that can backfire, and it did. I think another reason they threw him in was because of the pace he possesses against Harvey Barnes and Jamie Vardy's, etc. So I think that's why Lampard did that, but it backfired. He didn't play very well. Jack Jones makes a good point, and I don't want to be too controversial. Like, not a lot of people criticise Reece James, and that's because of his academy background, because of his character, I think, and he's a very good player.
Well, Mason Mount is in the academy, and everybody is happy to tell me that he's not a good player, that he's overrated, that he shouldn't be in the team sheet. Even if we get a new manager, Mason Mount is not going to be starting.
Yeah, so. That's not going to happen. But yeah, it seems like Reece James doesn't get criticism. It's a fair point from Jack Jones, and he deserves criticism last night. He didn't play very well. He was very lackluster for the second goal, and that's actually become a thing with Reece James a little bit. Like, I've noticed now 2 or 3 times he hasn't got back, transitioned back into defence quick enough, and he's been caught out. And that's because maybe that's something he has to improve on. And he knows that. And he seems like he comes across as the kind of character that will respect that and know that. And also, he is still young. He is still learning. He's still kind of figuring out. And you could argue he's a better wing back than he is a full back. But he definitely played both. This is not Marcos Alonso where he can't play, both. So no disrespect to Alonso. I know he's Spanish and all that, so no disrespect. But Reece James has to be accountable, and he deserves to be criticised just like everybody else does.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, honestly. We have another question about the formation. So it feels like Lampard is changing the formation a lot. 4-3-3 was working. We went on a 17-game unbeaten streak, and now we've lost 5 games in 8, I think, in the Premier League, which is just ridiculous. So what do you think is going on? What do you think has changed since then? I really don't have a good answer for this. And going to this question, I don't know which formation is better, really, because we look poor in every formation that we play. What about you?
What's changed is confidence. Right? The players' confidence just boom. Right, and I wrote a couple of articles on this. Confidence cracking at Chelsea is the main one if you want to go check that out. But no plug or anything. But confidence is the one that's dropped at Chelsea. That's the biggest thing. And you can tell that with the way the players are playing, right? Chilwell is not bombing forward like he used to. Every time Chilwell gets the ball now, he's going back to the centre-back. Every time, and it's very frustrating. Thiago Silva and Rudiger or Zuma are passing back and forth, whereas before Thiago Silva was pinging them balls. There were so many runs made yesterday across the front line by the front players who made very good runs, and the ball just didn't go, and it became frustrating. And I think the forward players kind of gave up. They were making runs, not getting the ball. They just kind of became stagnant, didn't move. And that was why we looked so stale and boring to watch when we were moving the ball in possession. We had the most possession, I think, but we were poor with it, which goes back to the original point of Alex Ferguson, right, that says passing without penetration is pointless, which is true. There's no point in passing just to pass. So, the formation, Ellie, I believe we should maybe perhaps go with a 4-2-3-1 for now. That's what I play with my teams. It's a very balanced formation. It's a very coherent formation in respect of we can go from attack to defence pretty quickly and from defence to attack pretty quickly. It's very balanced. So I think we should try that. Lampard should try that. But the biggest change is confidence. They haven't become bad players overnight. Lampard should be getting better, not worse as a manager. He should be learning on the job and getting experience, right? So that can't be an excuse as such. It's just confidence is huge. And people underestimate confidence and underestimate the mental side of the game.
Yeah,
I've studied it, so it's super important. That's really the biggest difference, I think.
I can imagine for a striker, especially like Timo Werner, somebody who's such a prolific goal scorer and so used to scoring goals, and now he's just been on a massive goal drought, and he's starting to question himself. The team isn't playing well either. I can imagine that confidence just plays such a massive part, and you might overthink everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Forward strikers are the ones that will lose confidence the most and gain confidence the most. That's kind of a temperamental relationship, and it also means maybe the most to them because scoring goals is the hardest thing to do in football, right? Or soccer. So
we get destroyed if I said soccer on here.
I'm so used to it now, so I can get away with saying both. I'm sure someone will rip me now in the comments on my Twitter. So knock yourselves out, guys. I'm old enough; I can take it.
So do you think the reason why we're just passing to each player, behind to the back line and not forwards, do you think that that's tactical? Are the players given these instructions, or do you think that they are just so scared to lose possession of the ball and hand it over to the opposite team and have them capitalize on it, that they're just not willing to take any risks whatsoever?
Yeah, a bit of both, to be honest, Ellie. I think tactically Lampard has probably told them that, if there's nothing to play for, keep the ball, which is fine. And the reason the ball's being moved between the two centre-backs is to trigger movement further forward and also trying to find a gap on one side of the field. That's why we're doing it. We're just doing it awfully too slow, and Lampard knows that and has recognised that. And that's on the players. That Lampard can't pass the ball for them, and he can't play. He can't dictate the speed of play. He can encourage it, but he can't dictate it. The players dictate it. So that's why it's both people. People are blaming Lampard only. Some people, minority, are blaming players only. It's not. It's both. And so I know everybody wants a scapegoat. That's not true, by the way. Whatever, Masca. Yesterday was the first. I'll just quickly jump on that.
Yeah, do it.
Yesterday's game was the first time I kind of saw some players maybe not down in tools. That's way too serious. But maybe didn't look disinterested. But for those people who think that the dressing room's given up on Lampard and they want him fired, that's not true. Like, I can guarantee that. Are there disgruntled players in the squad? Yes, Alonso, Rudiger, etc. Of course they are. They're fully playing. They're international players. You know, they've got the Euros coming up. They want to play, of course. The squad's too big. That's not Lampard's fault. That's the club's fault. Should have got rid of players. That's on them. They have to take blame for that. Of course, there's disgruntlement, but the dressing room was not giving up on Lampard. That's for sure. This is the most serious I get in this chat, but yeah.
It was just like really shocking for me because I felt like after Leicester scored their first goal in 6 minutes, then the team just looked so dejected and we never really looked like coming back into the game. And I was thinking, like, surely you've seen the headlines that Frank's job is on the line. Like, you've lost so many games in a row. Like, I would hope that you tried to play a little bit faster. And I was really disappointed with that.
Yeah, no, he knows that though. Lampard has said that in so many interviews and press conferences now. Like, what we want to play quicker, we're playing too slow. He said it. He knows it, and he'd be a hypocrite, right, if he wasn't improving it on the training ground. So I'm assuming he is. It's the players. The players have got to play quicker, and that's on them. And that's because, you know, I'm sorry to do this to you, Ellie, but Pulisic's one of them where he's just not moving off the ball. Like, he's moving. I'm sorry. You know, he's not the only one, but he's one I'm going with because it relates to Chilwell because they play on the same side. The reason Chilwell plays back so often is because, number one, his confidence has gone a little bit. Let's be fair. But two, another one is Pulisic's not moving off the ball. And his runs, I've been watching Pulisic. I actually think he's a good player. You know, and I like him and I want him to do well. Maybe a little bit of bias because I live in LA, in America now. But so I want him to do well. So I don't want to bash him, but it's true. He's not moving off the ball. And Lampard I'm sure he's coaching that because Lampard is probably arguably one of the best of all time at moving off the ball because he arrives at the box at the right time every time. The players have got to take some responsibility for that. And I know the easy thing to say is, well, they don't want to take responsibility because they want him out and they've given up on him. No, it's not true. That's not true. It's confidence. That's what it is. So I'm going to probably say this a million times. I can already feel it.
It's good. It's good. We need to squash those rumors. So we know that the players are down on confidence. Even in easier games that I thought that we should have won, or games that we did win, like against West Ham and Fulham, we didn't even win convincingly. I was thinking, oh, well, I was actually happy that we would win without playing that well. But now we're looking at a run of about 8 games where Chelsea have played incredibly poorly, and it seems each game is worse than the next. So how do you think that the team can come back from this? How do you start to gain some confidence again after such a terrible run of form?
Consistency, hard work and consistency. It's very cliche and old school, right? But hard work on the training ground, number one. Everyone going in the same direction. And in order to do that, Lampard has to pick the players that are going to be backing him and are going to give him 100%. And that's on him. If he doesn't choose those players, that's on Lampard, and he'll be the first one to go. We've got to be consistent with our lineup. Ellie, you are looking really good according to Primus. What a guy. Watch out.
It's the ring light.
My ring light's over there. I left it in the other room. I think, you know, he's got to be more consistent. This is not the time. I know we're trying to still figure out our best team. We've had injuries that have delayed that. We've had opponents and tactics that have delayed that. And Lampard's made some interesting decisions that have delayed that. I saw someone earlier say that, you know, we haven't seen Ziyech, Havertz, Werner, and Pulisic, I think, in the same team, which we haven't. And you'd argue that's our best front four on paper, as I keep saying. We haven't seen it. Lampard's fault and also injuries, but he's got to be. Thank you, Jack. I'm looking great too. What a guy. I like him. So at the end of the day, we've got to be consistent. Lampard's got to pick his 11 soldiers, the 11 who is going to get him through a bad patch, maybe switch a formation to 4-2-3-1, which is a little bit more balanced. It's not the time to be trying to experiment and rotate. This is the time to get results. And if you've got to go 4-2-3-1, which is a little bit more balanced and defensively, and then pick players who cares what their price tag is, just pick the players that are going to get you the win. Because I'll say this, I'm a big fan of Havertz. I've backed Havertz. I've tweeted on Havertz as he's going to be the winner of Ballon d'Or and he's going to be generational, which I never tweet. But he's poor right now. Don't play him.
Poor. So I forgot that he was playing yesterday. That's how poor he was. I didn't realize he was on the pitch.
You don't have to play him, but there are politics. There is outside influence. There is outside pressure to play the Germans. That's a fact. I won't go too much into that because I'll get in trouble, I'm sure. But yeah, that is a thing.
You don't have to answer this, but I was listening to Alex's podcast, The Byline, and he said that he thought that, like, for example, Williams' contract, he was playing week in, week out, and he thought that he needed like a certain number of starts, or he was taking X corners. Like, are those things built into contracts, and you think that comes into play at all?
I wouldn't say necessarily like X corners as such, but you're on the right lines. Like, there are very interesting contractual things.
Ooh.
I would say that. There is politics, guys. It's football. It's a business. There are politics, like every business.
I would just think, like, I don't have any contacts whatsoever, but I would just think if you spend 70 million on a player, you're likely going to want to play him because you spent a ton of money on him. But then it goes to you. Do you play the players that you bought, or do you play the player even though they're not playing well, and do you try to play them and give them some more confidence and hope that they find their way, or do you bench them, which is, I think, a massive issue that Frank Lampard has been facing, and it seems that he doesn't really know what to do. So if you had to pick the players that are going to show up, play for Frank, and get the win, who would you pick? A handful of players we can go through.
Handful, obviously, Mason Mount for sure, Thiago Silva, Kurt Zouma, Mendy. I would give Billy Gilmore a go at this point.
Yeah.
I would keep Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'd keep him in the team. I think he deserves more. I think he was thrown into a gauntlet yesterday a little bit, and he struggled, but everybody struggled. But what do you expect when he hasn't played that much consistently? So I'd keep him in there.
I hope to get some consistent game time in, but the games before Leicester, I thought that he played really well. So Leicester putting like a massive blip for everybody.
Right. You can argue between Tammy and Werner. You can argue, right? Werner should have been dropped way before this. I said that before, but he's now being dropped, and he came on yesterday and was bright. So I think maybe he actually got a little bit of fire in his belly finally. So maybe you kind of ride that wave because Tammy was poor yesterday. But at the same time, I actually think Tammy deserved to start yesterday.
I thought so as well.
Tammy's one who worked really hard. So it's up and down who you pick for centre forward. But they're the kind of few names that I would say I think I would keep in the team. Do I think the number 9 is Jinx? No. By the way, I just saw it out in the chat real quick. No, I don't think it is. I think that's a poor excuse.
I have some questions that I still want to ask from like 15 minutes ago, so I haven't even been looking at the bottom of the chat.
I'll do the little ones. You can go back to the old ones. I'll do the quick little ones like that.
But we'll go super disjointed just asking questions because honestly, who cares about format when we have so many people joining in and asking amazing questions? And yeah, super exciting. So we have a question from Dieter Van Geit. He's always super, super supportive, so I wanted to make sure to ask it. He asked, are we underestimating the effects of COVID on Havertz? Because we know that he was out, and after having COVID, I've heard that you could be really sick and not feel yourself for a month, 2 months after. So do you think that that's playing a part in his performances recently?
Yes. I do think that we are underestimating how much has hit him. But we're also underestimating the fact that he's only known Bayer Leverkusen his whole life. We're underestimating the fact that he's German. And Ellie, who I'm well-travelled, but Ellie's maybe more well-travelled with me, will tell you that I've got German friends, I've played with German people. And this kind of sounds weird, but I know it makes sense to me. The Germans are very German, if that kind of makes sense. Like, they're very rigorous and they're very stuck to their culture, more so than maybe English and others. So what I mean, and that's not like derogatory, that's actually a good thing, if anything, you could argue that. So he's only ever known Germany and Leverkusen, and he's so young. And, Bayer Leverkusen's system was played around him. And Peter Bosz, the coach, has already said that. He's even came out and said that, basically. And Lampard's not doing that, rightfully or wrongfully. I think eventually we'll hopefully build a team around Havertz. I think we have to do that. I think he's that talent. And I think eventually he'll come good. I really do. But just right now, he's not fitting there. So, we have underestimated the effect of COVID, but we've also underestimated the settling in period. Havertz's background is a lot different to a lot of other signings we've made. He's a young kid who's just come through somewhere he's only known. It's a big transition.
I guess like you and I can both speak because we both live in countries that we didn't grow up in, and the cultural shock, even for me moving to Spain, was absolutely massive. Like, I did not think that it would be as difficult as it was, and so I imagine that plays like a massive part in it too. And being so young, and having so much pressure, a massive a massive price tag, and the limelight of the media. I imagine it must be really difficult to deal with. And we know that players usually take about a year to get settled into the Premier League. It's a very difficult league, so I do want to cut these players some slack as well.
100%. And the Premier League is rapid. Like, it's so fast. So it's harder to adjust to in other leagues. And Ellie, you'll speak more on this because of, I moved to America, which is still English spoken. So it's a little bit easier. Obviously, you went to Spain where you didn't speak Spanish. So, and Havertz definitely doesn't speak English. Well, he does. And he actually speaks decent English, but you still have to learn it. So it's still a transition,
And like for me, when I moved to Spain, my brain just hurts so much because like when you hear a new language, it's just like, it's really difficult to deal with. But
I've tried learning Spanish like 4 times and I give up after like 2 weeks. I'm so English. I think I'm so like ignorant. We're not ignorant because we speak English.
It's a hard language. It is.
Well, I wasn't speaking other languages, but yeah, Spanish is no joke.
So Andrew Langan actually asked a question that I wanted to ask. So I've seen a lot about establishing a winning culture at Chelsea, and I would think there's nobody better than Frank Lampard to establish this culture. But we've just been losing so many goals, so many games. How do you think that we can turn this around and like get back to that winning culture?
Winning culture is bred from the training ground. Like you've got to, and this is something I'm very big on with my teams, is winning everything. Like you've got to win every little competition in training and in practice, whatever you call it. I'm trying to be both sides of the world here. I call it training, but they call it practice here. So, you've got to win everything in training. And Lampard is doing that. I've heard and know he's doing that because he's got such a big emphasis on the training ground, right? We all know that. So that's where a winning culture is bred from. Is the training ground and being competitive there. In terms of how that translates on the game, well, that's the hardest thing to do in football, right? Is to translate what you do on the training field into a game. And sometimes you just need a win, or actually you don't. You need 2 wins or 3 wins maybe for consistency. So I think we just need to be consistent in our lineup. We need to be consistent in our tactical approach. We need to be consistent on who we choose, and we have to ride it out. That's what I think in order to get back to a winning culture and a culture of confidence.
Do you think that Lampard is training the players too hard? Because I've heard that the training sessions are so difficult. Could they potentially just be so tired by the time that it gets to the game?
Definitely think that was an issue at some point. Yeah, I think we noticed that, right? A few weeks ago, like Chelsea, when we started our poor run, I would say, like the Everton kind of game, we looked exhausted. Yeah. We really did. And that's perhaps Lampard's fault. I haven't heard anything. Well, I've heard some things, but I've not, I don't watch training. But, I've heard that the Lampard's training sessions are very difficult, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to manage. And again, let's be honest here, he is inexperienced. He is inexperienced at this level, and he's still learning. But we knew that. We knew what we were getting into when we hired him, and Roman knew that. So we have to cut him some slack, as they say. I'm doing really good here, guys.
Is that really American? Cut some slack?
I feel like it is. Right? No, I don't know. I felt like it was. It felt like it was.
It's so normal to me.
Yeah, it's definitely American for sure. But yeah, we have to cut him some slack now. So yeah, the training maybe has to be altered a little bit in order to keep our players fresh in what is such a difficult, weird season.
Yeah, but the counter argument to that, we've been saying like, oh, there's so many games. It's such a tight period that we're playing every 3, 4, sometimes 2 days, but that's happening with all the other teams, and we're the only ones that are playing like relegation level at this point. Like in terms of the amount of losses that we have, I think only Sheffield United have more in the same period of time, which is really scary. So I think it's something that like needs to be sorted out, and hopefully we'll find that magic formula. But I'm nervous right now. So we have a question from Dan, and then he asked, do you think that Abramovich feels sympathy, knowing that Lampard is a Chelsea legend, but the games just have not been up to par and the results have not been good enough recently?
I get his point, Dan. It's a good question. I get your point. I don't think sympathy is the right word. I don't think Roman is a sympathetic person. He's a Russian billionaire businessman. He is human. and he's a really good human, by the way, very good human. But I don't think it's sympathy. I think it's just a philosophy change within the club. I wrote on this, again, no plug again, but I wrote an article on this on my platform, which was Abramovich change. I can't remember the title of it now, which is pretty bad. But it was Abramovich's approach. That's it. And the approach of the club has changed. The approach of Abramovich has changed. It's not the same Chelsea it was 5-6 years ago, guys. And I know people are upset about that and they don't like that, but it is what it is. We don't decide. We like to think as fans, we're the most important people in the world, but we're not. We're not, unfortunately. The game's gone. The game's changed. So, Abramovich, no, he does. I don't think it's sympathized, but he understands what he hired and what he gets. Here we go. We'll get to that in a minute. A new comment just came in, but the approach is different, and Abramovich knows that Lampard needs time, and there's also not much out there in terms of key replacements. I know we'll talk about. I know you're going to ask me about them, so we'll get there later.
I'll ask you about them.
Right, but it's not sympathy. It's just a recognition that the club has changed and the club approach has changed.
Yeah, I feel like in past years, the club just had such instant gratification in terms of if you don't win a trophy, then you're out. And that cycle of sacking managers just really isn't sustainable. But a lot of fans have seen, well, sacking managers has worked because if they don't perform, then we sack them and we'll find somebody who does perform. But I just don't find it sustainable at all. I think that I really liked the idea of having this 3-year plan because we know that there has been a massive quality gap between Chelsea and the likes of Liverpool and City, who have just been playing in their own tier, and we're trying to close that gap. But I think that the problem and the frustration that a lot of fans are feeling right now is that the goal this season, according to the 2-year plan, is to close the gap between Liverpool and City. And we're seeing that we're still pretty far away from doing that, even with this 200 million injection. And we're just going on a really terrible run of form. And I think another issue is that Lampard, in some sense, I think he overachieved last season by getting top 4 because we didn't have any additions to the team, and we still got top 4. So people are thinking, well, surely we've gotten 200 million worth of additions, so we should be doing better than top 4. And it's just we got lucky with some of the results last season. Teams weren't performing as well. And this season, we see that there's so much competition, even competition from teams that I wouldn't have thought of, like Aston Villa, Southampton have been doing very well. Everton have been doing well. Leicester are always in the running as well. So that top 4 competition has gotten so incredibly stiff. It's just insane. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Good choice of words, stiff. I'm really glad you brought that up, Ellie, and great stuff again as a host. What I will say is I'm going to comment on a few things. I'm going to write an article on this, and I already tweeted I would write an article on this, but obviously it's time sensitive, right, when you get the article out and which articles you do get up. I'm going to write an article, and I'm just going to title it 250 million spent, because this is such a frustrating topic on the platform right now that everyone thinks because we spent 250 million that everything works. And I'm going to be very cliche, old school, and maybe rude, and I'm sorry if that is rude, but this is not FIFA. You don't just buy players on Ultimate Team, which I don't play, and they just work. That's not how it works in football. There's relationships, there's tactics, there's settling down periods, there's the human aspect of moving. There's so much more to it. And Lampard did overachieve last year. That's a fact. He did. He completely overachieved, and we always knew that Werner, Havertz would take time. Are they taking longer than we want? Yeah, they are. But it was always going to take time. And we bought 6 starting players, which people don't seem to want to comprehend. We didn't just buy 1. We bought 6, and that's over 50% of your team that you're changing, your starting team. Not just your club, your squad, your team, your starting team.
And so, young players at that. You have 24, Kai is, 22?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, so it's so difficult. And, people don't realise that. And that's because a lot of people maybe haven't, played the game or haven't. And that's not a diss, because I haven't played tennis, but I like tennis. Or I haven't played tennis at a high level, but I like tennis, right? So it's just it is what it is. So, but for back on your point, Ellie, you said they're Aston Villa and Southampton's, right? they're doing well, and fair play to them. I'm a fan of both their managers, Dean Smith and Ralph Hasenhüttl, who plugs Simon Phillips, my guy. He wants Hasenhüttl at Chelsea eventually, I think. They've had settled squads. They've had settled philosophies. They've been at their clubs for a long time. It's very easy for them to transition from last season to this season. It's very easy for them to do that, right? Lampard, not so much. The whole squad has changed. The whole philosophy has changed. The whole goals have changed. The goalposts have moved. And that's difficult for any manager, let alone one that's inexperienced. So, and Southampton and Aston Villa are not coming in the top four, by the way.
No.
Let's just remember that, guys. It's a funny season. They're not coming in the top four. They'll drop off eventually. So let's just remember that too. But yeah, good points, Ellie. Well done. There's some funny comments coming in, by the way. Very funny.
Oh my god, I need to catch up on bad comments from 740. So do you think that Lampard, even though he's inexperienced, do you think that he has the ability to bring out the best of the likes of Kai Havertz and Timo Werner? Because we've seen them play kind of all over the pitch and they haven't looked great. I thought that versus Morecambe, Kai Havertz looked a little bit better in that 10 role, but then against Leicester yesterday, I just felt like he totally dropped off. So do you think that Lampard has like the tactical prowess needed in order to get the best out of these players?
That is where I'm a little bit hesitant. Like, I am Lampard in, but that's where I'm hesitant. He's shown tactical fluency in the past, like against United and Spurs. He done a good job of kind of adapting himself to not lose that game, and we're unlucky not maybe to steal a goal and win them games. But let's be honest, people have talked about the record against the clubs above us. All them clubs have good managers. I imagine that, right? Imagine that good teams have good managers. And every time we've played against a team better than us, we've lost or not played very well, right? And that is because I personally think Lampard's been outcoached. He's been outcoached by a better coach and a more experienced coach. Fact, Ancelotti, Klopp, Brendan Rodgers last night, who obviously I'm a big fan of. So, yeah, that is what it is. And that's my only worry of Lampard is he trying too hard? Is he changing too much? Is he too inconsistent? Is he too stubborn? It's hard to kind of go on one, But, yeah, my only worry is with Lampard, which is fine. He's inexperienced. It's going to happen is tactically he's got to improve.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And this kind of segues perfectly into this next question by Nori. But why is Frank Lampard waiting until the 65th, 70th minute to make subs? Like yesterday, we knew that the team was just not working. I expected subs at halftime, and he waited 20 minutes to make them. Do you think that lends to his tactical inexperience, or why do you think that he would do that? Time and time again, we've seen it. It's been very frustrating.
Yeah, stubbornness, if anything. I wouldn't even say it's tactically. Yeah, you could maybe a little bit tactical, inexperience, but I think it's just more stubbornness. And I think it's more, trying to get the player. He was a player himself, right? And recently, so maybe he leans on that a little bit more as well, that give the players a chance, give them 20 minutes in the second half to maybe change things, and again, he's trying to keep the squad happy. Right, if you start subbing off players at half time, that's not going to be a happy dressing room. You've got to remember that as well, guys. Like, it's all good calling for changes, and I've called for changes before and asked for subs to be quicker as well. But you have to remember that he's dealing with powerful, influential human beings. And if I get ripped off, I've been a player, and if I got ripped off at half time, I'll be fuming. And if I had the power that I had as a professional footballer, that they do, one bad article, one bad quote could put Lampard in a very dangerous position. So I think Lampard's aware of that. And people will say, well, he's got to be stronger and he's got to be better. But that's football now. Players run the dressing room, players run the club. Let's be honest. So he's got to be aware of that as well. So there's a lot of things, and I do agree that Lampard has to make changes quicker and he can be better with these substitutions. 100% I agree with you guys, but there's more to it than meets the eye.
Do you think, as a player, if I got subbed off at halftime, I would be feeling so bad? I would think, shit, I need to be playing better. And for me personally, I think it would kind of light a fire under my belly. Like, I have not been good enough. I have let the team down. And how embarrassing that I'm subbed off at halftime. Do you think that the players just don't have that type of mentality? Yeah,
in an ideal world, that's how you would feel, right? But I think the game's changed so much, modern football's changed so much, and I think these players are so pampered a little bit that some of them will go that way, and you'd hope most of them will go that way, right? But then there'll be some that wouldn't, unfortunately.
So John Chapman is asking you, Dan, what do you think Chelsea's strongest 11 right now is? I think that this is a difficult question because the players just aren't playing well, so it could really be a crapshoot. I don't even know if we have a strongest 11 because we just don't have a set 11 that's constantly changing. We don't have a team like Liverpool that you just know is going to be basically the same team every week. What do you think?
Yeah, so I can't John, thanks for the question. And I try to be one of them people that doesn't dodge questions. I'm not a politician, so I don't try and dodge questions but this is tough. I can't name a starting 11 because, a formation's got to change. People are in and out of form. But what I will say is that some of the people that have to be mainstays in the team are, of course, Mendy, who could do better, but he is the number one goalkeeper. I think, Chilwell is clearly the number one. He's been poor recently as well, actually, but, he has to be the number one left back, right? I think Zuma has to get back in the team ASAP. Varner, there you go, right there. He's got the answer. Reece James needs to be rested until he's fully fit, I think, personally.
Yeah.
I think Mount has to be in every team. I think right now Callum Hudson-Odoi needs to be playing. So it's a difficult question. It's so hard. But yeah, certain players need to be consistently in that team each and every week. And you do see that, Mason Mount being one of them.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And something that I was kind of nervous about with the 4-2-3-1 system is that it doesn't really favor Mason Mount that much. Like, he can play basically anywhere in the pitch, but we know that his best spot is as an 8, and the 4-2-3-1 either forces him to play as a 10 or like a little bit deeper in that pivot. So would you sacrifice, I guess, for the betterment of the team, do you think the 4-2-3-1 is better while you sacrifice Mount a little bit? Because we know that Mount can get forward. And he said in an interview that he's not usually been getting so forward, and he scored the goal because he got into those positions that he doesn't usually get in. He's been the only one that's really looked like scoring recently, I feel. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we have to sacrifice. I don't think it's even more of a sacrifice which is a credit to Mason Mount. He can play in a lot of positions, and he would fit somewhere into a 4-2-3-1 because of his ability and the things he brings to the team. So I don't even think it would be that much of a sacrifice. I think for the greater good of the team, unless something clicks to the 4-3-3 immediately, the 4-2-3-1 is just more of a balanced. And I do think that Jude Jones just asked, like, right now, can he play in a pivot? I think so. I think Mason Mount can play in a pivot, yeah. So yeah. Hopefully you haven't skipped all the good questions before that. So sorry if I
haven't.
But yeah, no, I do think he can play in a pivot, yeah. And I think he can be sacrificed, for lack of a better word, in order to do that, yeah, because of his ability.
We saw him come back a little bit deeper yesterday in the pivot, but I just think with Kovacic and Mount, and then the Leicester game was just so bad, but if you have somebody else in there, it could definitely work. I do want to ask you this question. I was so impressed with Maddison's interview yesterday. I thought that he spoke really, really well. So Shrek says, just think of the movie. I didn't see Chelsea do enough dirty work yesterday. I totally agree. I just felt like we couldn't even string passes together. The passes were so sloppy, like something that should be completed was not getting, it was going out of bounds, something that should have been so simple. I felt that Chelsea were muscled off of the ball, not getting to first balls, not getting to second balls, just so lethargic. Do you think that this is something that Chelsea needs to do more in their games?
Out of bounds, another good American shout there.
What would you say?
Just out of play. This is brilliant.
Americanism.
I know what out of bounds means. I play enough golf to know that. Someone already mentioned my golf earlier, so I know enough about that. The Maddison interview, I didn't actually see the full interview. I just saw the clippings because I had to go straight to coaching after Chelsea lost, which, imagine that, guys. I've had to coach myself after watching that game. It wasn't great. But yeah, I saw the clippings, and he was spot on. I like James Maddison. Speaks well, plays well. Really like him as a person. And yeah, he's right. For most top managers, you don't play if you don't work hard. Alex Ferguson's teams were unbelievable work rate. Just pressure. And, he's right. And Chelsea are not doing the dirty work. They're not digging in. And that's what Lampard's asking for in his interviews, right? When things are not going well, you have to outwork it. If you're not playing well technically, you've got to play well physically. And that means output. That means you just got to run. And we've seen Klopp's obviously getting impressed and how hard they work. And City as well, when they lose the ball, City press like a bunch of madmen. So yeah, we got to work hard, and we didn't do enough dirty work yesterday, and we have to give more.
Yeah, I like this comment that Mount is being a scapegoat. I tweeted about him that he gave 110%, even though the whole team wasn't playing well. And like when we do get another manager, if we do get another manager, rather, like he will still play. I really like that.
It's true. Mason Mount's going to be a long stay in the Chelsea team, I think, for a few years.
Yeah. Right. Somebody else, a little bit.
Ellie's going for the more recent questions now, guys, so you might have missed out.
risky business over here. That's what we're here for.
Hopefully we ever skip. I'll try and go up a little bit and help out if I can. But yeah, too much experience. I'm just reading this right here from Joshua. Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, Werner's not being used correctly. I understand why he's put Werner on the wing because we had injuries, right? And we have obviously Tammy and Giroud. So I understand why he's done it. I do understand, and I don't think it's as simple as people think it is. But yeah, people have come out now. Ralph Hasenhüttl, other managers have come out and said how you use Werner, and these are managers that have had experience.
Yeah,
of using Werner in given positions. And yeah, you buy that kind of player, you've got to play a system around him. I agree with you. I think that's just Lampard trying to figure out what that system is and how it works. And he's toying with it, right? We're now seeing a 4-4-2-4 or 4-4-2 in a way, which maybe suits Werner more. So he is experimenting with it, for sure.
I felt like the midfield, I don't know if it was just yesterday or if it was the 4-4-2 that the midfield just still looked really overrun. And
midfield lost their battle yesterday, 110%.
Yeah. So I'm trying to take it as a one-off. So this is a really interesting question from Mohammed. He says, I always try to be optimistic when it comes to Chelsea, but do you think that top 4 is still a possibility? Dan, do you think it is?
As at the time of speaking, yes, I think it's still a possibility. But ask me again in 2-3 weeks, and I might change my mind. No, I'm kidding. I think it's still a possibility. Yes, I think this season is just going to be so inconsistent, and results are going to come out of nowhere. If we could just get, I think a good run of 5, 6, 7 games gets us back there pretty easily, and we are more than capable of doing that. I know it seems pretty absurd, and people won't be able to see that right now, but I can still see that we can go on a run, and we'd be right back up there for sure.
Yeah, I think it's optimistic. We just have to turn around the form, honestly, because if we keep up with this form, then it's definitely slipping away from us. But I do think that we are capable of winning these games. We need to get our confidence back. We need to figure out a system. Just everything isn't working right now. But Dan, so we're coming to the end of the stream. So I have to ask you.
Wow, that was quick.
I know, it's been an hour already. Can you believe it? I have to ask you. So, do you think that Lampard is going to stay in 2 weeks' time, let's say? Do you think he will still be Chelsea manager?
Golly, gee, wow.
Hitting the hot button.
Off the cuff. That was never in the preparation of this. Do I think Lampard will still be in the job in 2 weeks? I do.
You think we'll get top 4 if he's in the job?
Where did this come from, girl? Wow. I think we have a chance.
The questions that people want to hear the answers to. You know it.
I think we have a chance. I think we have a chance. People. I'm just reading these comments again. Yeah, I think we have a chance to get a top 4 as long as Lampard. But something's got to change. It's got to start. I know, right? I think something's got to change very quickly. I do think so.
Yeah.
And now I'm reading I'm reading. He looks like Steven Gerrard mixed with Christian Pulisic, and then someone else has called me Joe Cole. Yeah, I've heard all these before, guys. Yeah. No one can decide which one it is. One day it's Gerrard, next day it's Pulisic, the other day it's Joe Cole. So,
well, my husband is Azpilicueta, so yes, it's a compliment.
At least his is consistent, though, right?
What?
At least his is consistent. Like everyone says, Azpilicueta. Mine changes every day, so maybe I need to do like a poll. And we'll just
I did a poll for him.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Like I had 3,000 people voting on whether or not he looked like Azpilicueta.
I'm gonna do a poll. We're gonna have to decide here who it is because I'm getting pretty upset with being compared to 3 people different every other day.
And finally, where did this go? So in the off chance that the athletic reports are correct, it's not if, it's when Lampard is going to get the sack, as much as it pains me to even talk about this. Who do you think is realistic for an interim manager or coming into, do you think that he'll last until the summer and then they'll find somebody? What do you think that whole situation is at right now?
Yeah, so I haven't asked any questions this morning to people I'm obviously connected with and talked to. I haven't looked at any of the new articles. I haven't seen anything. So this is me just coming off the cuff. As I told you, obviously previous. I think I like Brendan Rodgers. I'm a fan of Brendan Rodgers, by the way. So all good. Thank Jude Jones has told me to ask questions. Thanks, buddy. I'll do. Yeah, we'll get. I'll get I'm pretty busy, buddy. Like, come on, this is my second stream of the day, and it's only 11 o'clock in the morning here in LA. So I'll get there eventually, Jude. But yeah, from what I'm told, heard, no, whatever. Nagelsmann is the number one choice out of the three that have been linked. Tuchel is desperate for the job. He wants it, and if Roman, 100% wants it, guaranteed. Representatives have already told Chelsea that he wants the job, and if Roman called him tomorrow, Tuchel will be the Chelsea manager. Roman just hasn't decided if he wants to make that call or not. That's guaranteed facts. There you go, news drop. Boom.
I love this inside info.
Allegri has not been contacted. I think Fabrizio Romano's already tweeted that and already said that. And he's obviously a good friend of mine, and I speak to Fabrizio, and he's obviously confirmed that on his timeline. So that's obviously common knowledge that Allegri's not been contacted yet. So I'm pretty sure that Chelsea haven't contacted any of them, by the way. If anything from Tuchel, it's them contacting Chelsea. And Roman's just said that I'm not ready to make a decision yet. No one's contacted Nagelsmann as of yet, but I'm 99% sure from what I've told and heard that Nagelsmann is the favoured one of the three. But you're not getting him yet, so you have to wait till the end of the season. So it's either keep Lampard till the end of the season at least, which I think we should do, and then address it, or you get an interim in. But Steve Holland's not coming back to be an interim. Avram Grant's not going to be the interim, and I don't think there's Gus Hiddings not coming back to be the interim. So you kind of stuck. You kind of stuck there, yeah. So. Right. Jack Jones, I'm busy. I'm sure, Dan. How many holes have you played today? No golf today. I'm gutted. That's why I try and mix it up. It's not all business. I like to play a lot of golf, as people know. I like to get out and get away from Twitter. But yeah, no golf today, unfortunately, buddy. I'm way too busy, jumping on these things, and I've got an articles to write. It's a mental time to be working with.
What's the important questions that everybody needs the answers to?
Fire them away. I'm ready. If there's any more, prime at me.
All right, guys. You have a couple more minutes. If you have any more questions for Dan, he has so much.
She's busy. She's busy. Ellie needs to get away. She's got life to live. She's got things to do.
I work full time, so it's difficult. But
there you go.
Okay, let's take this one. Any transfer news? We are in the January transfer window, but there hasn't been too much noise. I wasn't really expecting any noise given our massive summer, but what do you have to say?
No transfer. Outgoing, I mean, the club is trying to get rid of Alonso. Trying to find a suitor for Alonso. I think in an ideal world, they try and get rid of other players such as Jorginho, Rudiger, etc. But the offers are just not coming in. It's a funny market. It's a loan market, and Chelsea are not adamant on loaning their players out. They want to sell them. So it's very difficult. In terms of incomings, no. Declan Rice is not joining in January, unfortunately, and I don't think we're going to sign anybody in January.
Yeah, no, that's basically what I thought. So with that, I'm going to close the stream since we've gone over the hour. But thank you so much, Dan. This was beyond my wildest dreams. It was so incredible. We've wanted to do a video together for like a couple of months now, and it was everything that I thought it would be. So just let everybody know where they can find you and any closing thoughts that you have.
Yeah, no, it's been a while. We've been trying to get together, and we are doing that, by the way. We talked about our own little project, and we will do that. So don't worry, Eddie, we'll get that done. But yeah, really happy to come on. It was a lot of fun. It was more casual, which is nice for me. It's refreshing to kind of just be able to talk normally and be casual. So I really enjoyed that. Thank you for doing that. And where people can find me, I live in LA. So if anybody's over in LA, hit me up. Unless you're all like, I don't know, weird, but if you're cool, hit me up. You can find me on Twitter at Macasport. My handle has sport on it, like most of these people now. So you can
I'll
find
put
me
your
there.
handle in the description as well. Make sure to do that.
Cool. I'll let Ellie kind of describe how to do that and what I kind of try to bring a balance /fan/ I don't want to call myself a journalist because I'm technically not, but I try to be a fair, balanced, rational view to the timeline. So that's where you can find me. I also have my platform, obviously, with Simon Phillips, of Chelsea. So you can find my articles, podcasts I do once a week there. So you can find me there as well. I'm around. So, and if you want to send me some abuse, knock yourself out. I'm old enough to now just block you straight away. I won't even entertain it. So, knock yourself out. I'll just tell you, I don't get offended. I don't get upset. I don't walk away crying at Twitter. So, yeah, knock yourself out. But yeah, thank you.
Somebody's
Everybody
starting to play football. You're there in LA.
Yes, comment. Yeah, hit me up. I try to play once in a while. I play in a really good pickup game, which has a few celebrities in it, actually. So I'm really lucky. I play like a little pickup game, so that's fun.
Wow, you have like the coolest life ever.
I'm trying. I'm not as cool as yours, but I'm trying. So yeah, no, hit me up for some golf or Chelsea games. I've spoken to a few people actually in LA who have hit me up on Twitter and said we'll get together when the world comes back to normal. So yeah, hit me up. But yeah, you can find me more on Twitter and obviously the site for Let's Talk Chelsea. So that's free, by the way, guys. No plug or anything, but it's free. Articles are free. Podcast is free. We're going to get Ellie on our podcast eventually, so that'll be fun. And, it'll be all good fun. So, yeah, that's where you can find me. And, yeah, all love and thank you for the support. Obviously, my growth is pretty crazy right now, which numbers don't really matter to me, but it's obviously cool to see. So thank you.
Yeah, and I can speak the articles that you read. I read all of the ones that come out, and they're really, really well written and have a lot of great information. So definitely, guys, check it out if you haven't already. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me on this stream. Really appreciate it. If you liked this video, please drop it a like and subscribe to my channel. And until the next one, I'm out.